probably a good idea just to go over very briefly the definitions of source of funds. Yeah, so the money laundering regulations only mentions source of funds 3 times under under ongoing monitoring, under PEP relationships and HRTCs, high risk third countries. Source of wealth only mentions it a couple of times. Anyway, then you have to look at the LSAG guidance, and the LSAG guidance adds colour to the regulations and adds definitions in there. But effectively what the LSAG guidance says is it's not just about it's coming from a UK bank account or the remitting details, but it's looking towards you to understand the origins of those source of funds. Yeah, not just the remitting details, but an understanding of how those source of funds were accumulated in the first place. Kayleigh.
Yes, I really like that you brought up the whole UK bank account. Like, you know, you don't have to just focus on that. Actually, a lot of misconception, I call it the UK bank account myth, where everyone thinks that money coming from a UK bank account is actually okay. It's not. We had the case of NatWest, who were fined quite a lot of money. And in that case, we had people going in with black bags full of cash. In one place, they took in £700,000. That poor cashier that had to count all of that money. But they should have had baddies written on their forehead, shouldn't they? So it just goes to show that actually money in a UK bank account doesn't mean that it's okay. So you need to understand, yes, the money's in the bank account, but we need to understand how they've come to get that money.
Absolutely. And just to mention source of wealth as well. It's important so source of wealth really comes into play in high risk situations and EDD situations, and that's really to assess the origin of the client's entire body of assets. So I guess the economic, the business, the commercial activities that then generated that overall body of wealth associated with the client, and any main drivers any accumulation of wealth over time. So that's the difference. Source of funds is really talking about the specific funds involved in a transaction, whereas source of wealth more to do with EDD situations, enhanced due diligence situations, and its overall body of wealth that client holds.
And it's just important to note that this is where the risk assessment comes in as well. So in terms of source of funds, you need to be doing it on a matter-by-matter basis, whereas a source of wealth, it's unlikely to change very often. I mean, you still probably want to have that understanding and make sure that you understand it. But when it comes to source of funds, it needs to be done on a case-by-case basis, because it's whatever that particular transaction, whatever money they're using for that particular transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that no one's suggesting that lawyers are turning forensic accountants here. They don't need to go into the weeds of an individual source of wealth, but they do need that overall understanding of the main drivers of that source of wealth.
I have seen quite a lot that in conveyancing it is something that they really struggle with. So in terms of, you know, they need to understand where the funds are coming from for whatever transaction that's going to take place. And it can be pretty much anything, as we all know. So it can be really tricky. And, you know, I think people are stuck in this 6-month bank statement thing. I know, like, you have to have a starting position, and 6 months bank statements is a great starting position, but actually you need to be understanding, one, do they have enough money for the transaction to take place, which is important, but more importantly, where are those funds coming from, and how did they gain those funds?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. And you know, certainly in conveyancing, it's about 6 months, 12 months bank statements. So we'll go into bank statements in a wee while, but you know, they can be useful, but it's not about just taking those bank statements. Oh, that's me done with source of funds. You need to understand those bank statements. What are the bank statements telling you? You know, do you need to account for every nickel and dime of an individual source of funds? No, but you need to understand that that individual could have saved that amount of money over a set period of time. Obviously, bank statements won't show you every source of funds. I mean, you'll be in situations where, you know, a client has come into an inheritance or has drawn down an annuity from, say, Standard Life or whatever. Well,
I've noticed, like, premium bonds are really big at the moment. When I was doing my file reviews, premium bonds, a lot of people are using premium bonds at the moment. So making sure that you've got the evidence for that. But okay, we see the premium bonds, but where did the money come from that?
You may have a situation where you've got a client or clients who you're, say, retired teachers downsizing and buying a bungalow, and you can see evidence that they have been teachers, whether that be through a pension statement or elsewhere, well then, that transaction probably makes sense. Yeah, it's not as complex as a multi-layered transaction, where there are more red flags and risk factors, where you would need to collect more evidence to substantiate the client's source of funds.
Yeah, and that's like the 10 years worth of bank statements that I found from someone. Again, it was a very vanilla matter, same sort of situation. They were downsizing and they were asking for 10 years worth of bank statements, which is just absolutely crazy. It's really important to look at the risks of the matter as well, and that's when they kind of do start to collide.